You know you can be an AV if you can count to 3. Just gotta say testing 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. You never count past 4 though.
Never past 4.
No.
It's always 3, huh?
Yeah.
3's the cutoff.
Well, it's like 4 is like you're like okay, all right.
How far can you count? 1, 2, 3. No, stop right there. Don't go any further.
3's solid, but
not
like,
to 10. No more 10s.
Yeah. When you count, you got to go up to 4, and then no 5s. Man, it's been a whirlwind. I feel like
dude, it's these past couple of weeks getting caught back up from the con, and
I was telling you when you first got here that I feel just now not exhausted from the con.
Yeah.
Like the weekends have been kind of a blur. Sorry, Roxy is just being a pill.
Yeah.
The weekends have been kind of a blur, and I feel like I'm just now kind of caught up on gaming. Almost like not even caught up on gaming. I'm still very far behind on my gaming.
You're like me pretty much, trying to get I've been reading the news on stuff, and I mean over this past weekend, like Thursday evening, I started like, oh, I didn't see this. Oh, I didn't see that, and then watching a couple trailers on stuff, I'm like, oh, this is cool, and
I know there's so much like that is already released and things that are coming out. But here's the deal for me is that I'm on Tears of the Kingdom timeline. So, like, this upcoming week for us, it'll already be out by the time you guys hear this. Tears of the Kingdom releases May 12th. We're recording the Saturday before. And this week is going to be the longest week of my life waiting for that game to release. So I think maybe that's why I feel so exhausted, not caught up. But, I mean, you're getting it. How do you feel what do you feel about?
Oh, I mean, I'm been so enthralled with that's like one of my main releases this year has been that one. I actually brought it up to you that I actually been playing Jedi Survivor on my PS5.
Right.
And that's one of the games that got, some backlash for PC players and stuff. So I'm like, I'm not concerned about Nintendo failing on delivery on that,
Yeah, I was honestly kind of worried with all the big kind of releases coming out, like with and honestly the Jedi Fallen Order, right? That's the new one. I feel like it looks great. Like PC has some issues.
I have a little bit of screen tearing on my PS5 and a little bit of slowdown here and there, but it's like they're in the process of optimizing it. But like a lot of PC players are having issues with like the audio going out of sync or freezing and stuff like that. And for some reason, the developers come out and said like they made this specifically for like a certain amount of hardware, so there is having to be optimized for across the board. So the game runs really well. I actually saw that they said the PS5 version actually is the better version because it runs so well on the PS5.
Okay. Yeah.
But they're in the process of getting it all optimized for the new computers, and I think a lot of it just like people with high-end computers with like the higher-end video cards and processors and stuff, and they're getting a lot of bottlenecking and everything. But I mean, they already came out and said that they were apologizing for this. I mean, I think the game should have actually been postponed again until they actually kind of tested it across the board, and that's my feeling on it. But overall, I've been enjoying it. I love the combat in it. It's so much more fluent than the last one that they came out with, and the level building in it, and the actual storyline and everything. So, I mean, to me, it's still a good game, but, it has optimization problems, and I figure that will be appointed with due time with them running their patches and testing them out before it gets released. So
yeah, I know. So I want to get your opinion on this, too. I had this interesting conversation the other day about people or companies releasing games before they're finished, but coming out with patches or content updates or DLC or whatever. I'm honestly not... it depends. I'm as long as they do actually keep up with patching games. I feel like newer games now, I could be wrong about this, but I feel like newer games now don't have the stayability that an older game, like a retro game, has. Like, I can go back to Ocarina of Time and play that and have a great time, right? I go back to Mega Man Legends. I do every year and play it through and have a great time. I don't think I'll ever play Back for Blood again. I don't think I'll ever pick up, what's another game that I've been, like Dead Island 1. Now that Dead Island 2 is out. The Dying Light series I love, but I don't think I'll ever go back to doing that. So I think like having content updates and patches for me gives me an excuse to go back and be like, okay, I'm going to play this again. For just because there might be something new or something to experience. So I'm okay with it right now. Currently, my buddy Colin and I, big shout out to Colin, he's the one that makes our intro and outro music. Him and I play games a lot online, and our big game is 7 Days to Die, which is PC zombie survival game's been out for a really long time.
Yeah.
But if you look at Alpha 1 versus Alpha 21 that should be releasing this month.
Right.
It's insane how different everything is. And I like that. I kind of like that. Some people are like, oh, I don't want them to change something I really enjoy. But honestly, you do it so many times in a survival game, you're not going to want to go back because they're like, I already know how to do this.
Right.
So I just want to kind of like pick your brain a little bit on that.
I mean, it seems like, retro games I can just pop in, Final Fantasy VIII on PlayStation 1. I can just, that's one of my favorite ones and go. And sometimes I always find something new I didn't know about or something like that. But like, like today's games, like look at Modern Warfare 2 this year that came out. They've had so many issues with content. They've really kind of minimized the amount of map play in it, which really kind of sucks for people that are like played the originals.
Yeah.
They had a lot more map content for 6v6. That's kind of pretty much like they get like one map per drop, and then they push like the Warzone, and then they're doing, now they got this one called DMZ, which is actually and people are starting to play that, and it's actually kind of taken off. But I mean, they put so much content in it for the other things, they kind of miss out. Like, well, what made Call of Duty was the 6v6. And everybody liked the simplicity of the maps and stuff. But now looking at it now, I'm like, why are they making these huge giant maps? And then you're having to run around everywhere, and then they correspond, like the spawning system will spawn you right in the middle of everything on one side of the map, so you get like spawn and someone can be right behind you and kill you as soon as you come alive.
Right.
Like, why is this map so big? Why can't they move me somewhere else to where I can get time to where I can mount up somewhere or hide or whatever? And I feel kind of almost unfair.
I mean, like in that's what I do love about Battlefield.
Yeah.
Is that they have designated sections where you can spawn where enemies cannot spawn.
And that's one of the things I think that kind of suffers. If they're going to do the bigger maps, then they should have it to where you can pick your spawn and not have it to where you're spawning right in the middle of everything and then getting shot, because it's aggravating, because you're like, I didn't even have time to turn around and shoot anybody. Someone's sitting around a corner with a sniper rifle, and as soon as I pop into the screen, they're like, I'm getting my head blown off.
Right, yeah, they're just ready to get you.
Right. And I'm sitting there going, well, crap, why am I in the middle of everything else? Why can't they put me somewhere where I can run around and hide somewhere before I don't get, before I get shot,
Yeah.
And that's what I liked about Battlefield, like you're saying, you pick your spawn, so.
Yeah, and I don't know. Maybe this is an unpopular opinion, but even though I spent a very long time trying to get my Steam Deck to play Call of Duty, I definitely prefer Battlefield all day.
Yeah.
But Battlefield, I'm just not very good at. It frustrates me.
My friend plays it, and he's not real good at it. But I mean, if you're running a squad, and you do your whatever your specialist. So like, say, hey, you're a medic. You're good at running around and bringing people back to life. Even if you can't kill nobody, you're doing your part. You're getting points, and you're getting rewarded for that because you have your other teamers that can balance you out by killing whoever.
That's true. Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, well, this is fun. I can go around and just keep everybody alive. Even if I get shot, I'm still bringing people back to life.
Yeah, it's kind of like Team Fortress 2.
Yeah.
You have your.
And I think that whole part of it that's why Battlefield's not a competitive game, is because it revolves around people having strong strengths and weaknesses. So they have a class they play. So like my buddy plays support. Mm-hmm. And he's real good with like LMGs and stuff, but he'll throw like ammo packs everywhere just to make sure you're never low or whatever.
Right, yeah.
And he does his point because he gets points for that, but he gets points for me for killing people too. So
right, he's always doing his part to
right. So I'm never have to worry about ever being low on ammo. I mean, I got ammo coming everywhere. So
right,
you know, ammo for days.
That's fun. I know. I have I think Battlefield 5 that I play.
I have it too.
I love it. I think it's so good. It's so
I think
old.
I think they dropped the ball when it first came out, but they've done so much improving on it, and the maps are a lot better now. Before, when it first came out, it just seemed like the maps were just so big, and you were having to run 3 miles just to go.
And then
somewhere.
and then you get shot, and then you're like, okay,
someone
I
sniping
start all over again.
Part of the map, yep.
But yeah, the destructible environments and the planes and like doing all sorts of crazy stuff in there, I really enjoy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. So I think with the Jedi Fallen Order.
Jedi Survivor. That's
Jedi Survivor.
The other one is the first game that came out of the series.
Okay, that's where I'm getting my wires
you're good.
crossed there. But I'm fine with content patches. Like, sure, throw them out there, whatever.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the argument of people are so upset and over Grand Theft Auto 5, which, I mean, I don't play it anymore either just because I've done so much.
Yeah.
They still make billions of dollars a year off of it. Like, why wouldn't they keep doing that?
It's like Skyrim all over. Skyrim's being released for everything. They're releasing Grand Theft Auto 5 for everything, you know?
Yeah. It's like, I can see the appeal of a game that's constantly updated of, like, why a company wouldn't move on quite yet.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since the latest GTA, for sure. I mean, GTA 5 has been spanned across 3 consoles now.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's been a while, but I don't know. I think that it's probably
But you know, and you brought up a good point. Like a lot of these AAA companies that are making these games within the last, I'm gonna say last 5 years or 6 years, that we see a lot of them come out with unfinished products that hit the market and then just underperform when on release date.
right.
Cyberpunk 2077 was another one that came out that was under par, that had been promised it was going to be the greatest. I mean, the game looks fantastic.
See, okay, that's a good point right there. Is that with Cyberpunk 2077, you said it right there, where it was they overpromised, underdelivered, and then they were like, okay, we're gonna fix it with patches. Right. I don't like that.
Yeah.
But when a company's out front and just saying like, hey, we're trying our best, and we're gonna give you a product, and it's gonna be expanded upon. That's honestly what they're doing. We were just talking about this right before we started. Dredge, which just came out, which is kind of like kind of a spooky horror fishing type simulator game. But it's I played a few minutes of it. It's pretty fun. I think I could get into it. But the company released this product, and then now they're just kind of like, hey, there's going to be a bunch of free updates with it, just so you know. Like, I mean, so like for that, I'm like, yeah, bring it. Like,
that's like the other one we talked about. I mean, off a conversation not on our podcast, but No Man's Sky. Do you remember when that first came out? It was kind of boring for a while, and and then they kind of like, hey, we're going to give out updates for this, and they've actually improved that game so much.
It's insane
with updates. And yeah, it's a lot of fun to play now. I'm like, well, this is not the game I played when it first came out.
right.
You know,
and like it's I heard a story the other day that was like people being burned from No Man's Sky and like trying to give it another chance. I played it kind of like a demo, or I won't say a demo, but a friend of mine had it, and I was playing a little, like playing around on it, and so for me it was a demo, but it was enjoyable. I mean, I don't really know if like space exploration survival is kind of my thing. My survival games are like collecting, like, you know, apocalypse style, I'd say.
Yeah.
Although I will say that, again, shout out to Colin. Him and I have been playing Grounded. Have you heard of that?
I've heard of that one. Never played.
It's like
it.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yeah.
It's actually really fun. It's really fun. It's just very like intuitive in a way that I wasn't expecting until I realized that it was made by Obsidian. So Obsidian made the game, and then when I found that, I was like, "Oh, okay, this makes a lot more sense."
Yeah.
Now. But it's really solid. I just would have never given it a second look unless my buddy was like, "Hey, man, like you should check to see if it works." And they actually just verified it on Steam Deck this past week. So I was like, "Oh, dude, it's verified. Let me check it out." Yeah. So I got it, and we started playing it. And honestly, dude, it's a good time. It's on Game Pass. Okay. So if it's on, you know, if you have Xbox, I would highly recommend getting on Game Pass. The only thing is that playing just like any survival game, playing it by yourself, no bueno. Get a friend, and do it.
Another one that you just bring up, this survival I just came out that it's been getting a lot of backlash for was Redfall. It's on Game Pass now, so it's a good game. I think the idea of it and the mechanics of the game is really well rounded for what it is. But the performance on it for PC and everything, it's just not there,
Yeah, and also it's very like I played a little bit of that as well. Or no, sorry, not Redfall. I'm thinking of Back 4 Blood because it was kind of like people were comparing that. I don't really think it's supposed to be a comparison for Back 4 Blood. Or Left 4 Dead. I think it's kind of its own thing
because you're fighting vampires,
right? And also like it's open world, and but I watched some gameplay of it, and it does kind of just look, I don't know, underwhelming, I guess is the word. It's like especially because I don't know if you know this, but it's $70. It's $70. And it's like, is this the quality of games we're getting at $70 now?
Yeah,
like,
that's the thing.
No, $40 maybe. Be like, okay, yeah, sure, 40. It's like a complete game. It's really good in that sense of like, co-op with friends and things like that. But it doesn't look like a game that I could play by myself.
It's almost like playing it and then kind of feeling how the graphics look and everything. It makes me think of like a darker version of Fortnite for some reason. I don't know why, but it almost feels like it's got almost a Fortnite feel to it with the colors and
with the color scheme. Yeah.
But I mean, it's for what it is. It's a cool game, and definitely one that you would want to play with people online with or your buddies or whatever. But like, I feel like these AAA companies are just pushing out games before they're really tested or fully tried out and everything, and paying your $70 for these titles, like, why am I paying $70 for an unfinished game?
Yeah, and I mean, even some of the things like the AI tracking, like somebody was telling me that the game is really hard, like Redfall's pretty difficult, so they're like, oh, I want to play with friends because it's a little difficult, and then I see streamers playing it, and accidentally they're like hiding behind just like boxes or cars, and like the AI is just standing there but can't figure out how to move around it, and these vampires can fly and they can't like fly over the debris, and so like they're just shooting it there, you know what I mean? And so it's little things like that I'm like, guys, we have advanced past this. Like, AI should not be dumb anymore. Like, I should have to struggle to get to the next like point.
Well, when the games kind of took a 3D prospect and people playing the original PlayStation, do you remember how hard the original Metal Gear Solid was with some of the boss fights?
Dude,
Psycho
I'm gonna be 100% honest. I didn't make it to the boss fights. It was hard for me just to get through the freaking level.
The Psycho Mantis boss fight was probably the most genius boss fight ever put into a video game, where you actually had to plug your controller into the second port to actually fight him. Because he was supposedly like, I can read your mind, I can read your memory card, and call out what he can see on your memory card. It was anything Konami. You're like, oh, you've been playing Castlevania or whatever. But then you put it in a port 2 and he can't read your moves and you can kill him. I'm like, that was,
I wonder how many people figured that out without any sort of help.
And then there's like a code on the back for talking to one of the characters that has the little codex code, and it's on the back of the game case. So people that bought the game, they didn't have the case with it, were like, what's the number, without, if they didn't have an internet access or anything. So there is a code that even tells you who to contact on there to get in touch with this person. But it's just like little Easter eggs like that. And I'm like, that was so genius. What happened to games like that,
Yeah, I think honestly now, I still don't even know if people, like, if a basic player would know to pull something off like that, but I would love that for like Easter eggs. Like, I mean, as in like, not like, you have a side mission and it's like, oh, there's this random safe that needs a code.
Yeah.
Where would I get that at? And it's like in the booklet or something.
Yeah.
If it has a booklet, they don't even do booklets anymore. I don't know what's up with that.
Yeah.
But nothing physical anymore.
It's
weird.
I think we had talked about this, and this is a big discussion between a lot of my friends and people, arguments like, I was kind of talked to before we started our recording, like, digital versus physical copies, and people that are into retro gaming love physical copy games. And I'm like, there's pros and cons for it. I'm in the middle for both of them. I think either one is great, but there's pros and cons for both. So, like, you were just discussing me, which I didn't even know about, but like if you buy a physical game, even if it's for a new console, like for PS5 or the new Xbox, and you buy it from GameStop and say, hey, you beat it within a week, and you're like, I want to go trade this in. I don't, you take the physical copy to GameStop and you get store credit, and then you can use that credit to buy something else you want to play.
Right.
But like with digital, like if you buy it from the PlayStation store or the Xbox store, once you buy it, it's yours. You can't trade it. Even if you beat it, you can't do anything with it.
Right.
And then you were telling me about Steam. If you buy Steam, if you have under 119 minutes,
so.
They will refund you.
So
back
basically 2 hours.
Yeah, basically 2 hours. They'll refund you your money for the game, and you can go buy something else.
Yeah, like no questions asked. And honestly, that's happened. And I don't know if there's a cap on that, but I will say that probably 5 or 6 times when I was really big into like trying to stream all the time.
Yeah.
I would get games that I'm like, oh, this might do really well.
Yeah.
And I'd play it for like 30 minutes and be like, God, this game sucks. I do not want to be part of this. And so then I would just ask for a refund, and the next day I'd get refunded, And I will say, though, that I'm pretty sure that it's not a refund that goes back to your debit card. It's a refund that goes to your Steam wallet.
So basically, you have credit with the Steam store.
Yes, yeah. So maybe that's the caveat there.
Okay. So and I think another thing too with digital and physical is like, why are you going to charge $70 for a physical copy and $70 for a digital? I really feel like the digital copy should be cheaper than the physical.
I do agree with that. I'm thinking that mostly the way I think of it is that as a company is advertising it as like, well, the digital copy is worth $70 because you're getting $70 worth of like content. Mm-hmm. And the physical copy, we're taking a little bit of a loss, like because we're paying out of pocket this much, so we're only making this much on it, even though you're still getting $70 worth of content. And
that kind of goes back to the fact that you're buying a $70 AAA game, and it's not fully there, or
right,
and you're paying,
especially if you buy like. I'm all about paid DLC. I'm fine with that, especially because it's an option.
Yeah.
So you don't have to buy it. That's totally fine. But microtransactions, if I'm spending $70 on a game, I better not see any microtransactions.
And I think that's something that's kind of plagued the gaming community now is microtransactions. It ruins a bunch of games.
Right, yeah.
Call of Duty being one of them. They got skins for all sorts of people now. You can get all these weird superhero skins and like pink fluffy bunny skins.
And I will say, though, that like a skin, something that doesn't give you any sort of boost, I'm actually not too upset with. I mean, it's still stupid.
Yeah.
But if it's only cosmetic, then it's like, okay, well, you're choosing to spend your money to just look different, which is fine.
And then you're gonna have someone, but you're gonna have something, but it's not unique because you're gonna have like 5 other guys buying the exact same thing.
Exactly.
They're all gonna look the same.
But to buy like a better weapon that will make you better than someone else, I don't agree with.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I think there should not be a pay to win thing in a game at all. I think that just takes the
there was one game, I can't remember what it was. Man, that's gonna bug me because what I liked about it is I think that it was a jab at games that do microtransactions, because in the game you earn a currency by doing missions that you use to open loot boxes, but you can't spend real money on it. So it's like you spend this currency.
Right.
But then like the more you spend on these boxes, it's like your character in the game becomes more addicted to it. So they do worse later on because, and I can't, man, it was some like PC release. But, but anyway, shout out to whoever made that. Because I like that.
Yeah.
I feel like we're a little spicy today, Jeff.
I don't know. I think it's just been an aggravating week, and I think with all the news for these AAA games and seeing all
it's
these,
been just disappointing. And like I do have some good, like I have a Dead Island 2. Yeah. I'm a little peeved that it's only on Epic Game Store as far as PC. That's annoying, especially because Steam has every iteration of Dead Island, all of the games they came out. They came out with like 9 different games, by the way. If you didn't know that, if you thought There was only Dead Island 1 and Dead Island Riptide. That is false. There's a bunch of different games that they came out with it. And different styles, too. Wildly different styles of games. But, so Dead Island 2, I have my other PC, which is fine. But I got the Steam Deck to play games on that.
Right.
And it runs things better than my other PC. So I'm running lowest settings, Epic Game Store on my other PC. And for me, I can never really tell a difference. So I'm whatever. And the game's pretty good. It's not bad, but I think I'm already lost interest almost. I'm going to have to force myself to pick it back up and play just because I'm kind of the hype came
and went that quickly.
Now, and it's like I always say, I'll always say this, a game's worst offense is not being really bad or really good, but just being completely mediocre. Dead Island 2 across the board is just a leveled out, mediocre, fun experience, but it's also not the best experience I've had, and it's not the worst experience I've ever had. So it's not the best zombie game I've ever played, and it's definitely not the worst one I've ever played. But it's right in the middle, and it's so forgettable. So I don't know. Maybe that's why I'm feeling a little spicy with the.
Yeah, and I knew, kind of going in with the Jedi Survivor, I'm it's
that was
EA.
a hot topic.
It was a hot topic, and I knew for sure there was going to be someone that was going to be grumbling about the game because it seems like every time EA releases a AAA game, there's always something going on with it, and. I played it the day it came out. I loaded up and played it, and I'm oh, this is really good. And then I saw all these critic reviews, and they're this is great. I'm oh, this game's actually really good. And then no later than after the weekend, I saw all these PC people started complaining about the game with the performance, and they were showing videos of the audio being out of sync, screen tearing, people freezing, and stuff like that. And I'm I bought the PS5 version. I'm happy with the one, but I'm so glad I did not buy the $70 PC version. You know? And I'm I would have been so disappointed.
What? I didn't even think about this, but what's kind of strange too is I have a Xbox One, not the fancy one, but I have a regular Xbox One, and I still any game that I can, I'll try to get on PC and play on PC instead. The main reason, one, convenience, but also two. It's not even that it runs better on my PC. It's just that how do I want to say this? It's it makes me feel better knowing that on PC maybe someday there'll be mods for it and I can abuse the game in some way. And so that's why I like to get things on PC when I can. But I don't have any physical games for PC because it's all on Steam, to their cloud and everything, or a couple on Epic Games now. But I don't know if I'm going to regret that someday. If it's also out on a console, if I don't have a physical copy because I'm a collector. Yeah. So I didn't really think about that till just now. But I guess it doesn't bother me that much. I don't really care. But. So
I had talked to someone about this a while back and not too long ago, but when the Xbox 360 came out with their 360, remember the 360 arcade? They would have digital games that you can download that were remakes of arcade games or certain.
Oh, yeah.
Now, so there was a lot of indie games that came out on the 360 that were really well taken from the public that was really good, and some of those did not have the license dropped off, and they removed them off the store. So if you bought the game and it's in your account, you could still download it. But if something was to happen, or we're not going to be put on this to be downloaded anymore, and you paid the $14 or $12 or whatever for this game that's DRM or whatever, and it's not licensed and not found anywhere, you're out of you're out of money.
Right.
That's something you digitally own but can't play it no more because it's not on there anymore. And that's the thing is digital games are very convenient for people that don't want to go to the store, but for me, I'm if the company decided they're just going to pull the plug on that, you're out. Then where's my money at?
Right,
I don't have anything physical to show for it.
Yeah,
and that's another con for me. But we live in an age now where everything is kind of cloud based and everything, and I think going forward, I think even if they decide to keep going physical, that I think Blu-rays and stuff will probably just end up being fanned out, and I think it'll be chips or something, kind of like a solid state technology, kind of like what Nintendo was, you know,
right.
with the cartridges and stuff. Now, I mean, if they did something like that, I'm like, oh, you know, it'd be awesome to collect, you know, for the 4 and everything like that.
I do prefer. At first, I was like, man, I really hate the Switch cartridge. Like, I'm not a fan. But honestly, I think I prefer it again. I don't know. There's something about having a cartridge versus just like a disc that is just cooler to me, at least in a collection. On a collection standpoint. But oh man, I had this crazy thought. Oh yeah, was I talking to you, Jeff? I don't know if I was, and I doubt I was talking to you about it on the show if I was. But did I tell you about an idea that I was curious about if companies just released games for older consoles now? Like, did we talk about that last time?
We do have. There is a couple of publishers that actually make indie games, and they're
what I mean is, like, if Nintendo, official Nintendo, said we're gonna make a new Zelda game on the N64, like with all the digital releases of consoles and the minis of consoles coming out, I feel like we touched on this last time, but I want to touch on it again if we did. That I think it would be a smart and awesome, especially for a collector, but even just for people that have a Switch and have the N64 downloaded on it. How freaking cool would it be if Nintendo just was like, hey, guess what? We're making a new Zelda game, and it's like, it's going to be on the N64. So, like, I feel like it wouldn't really take all that much to make for them. Like, they already have all the resources and huge teams or whatever. And I feel like it would do really well.
And I think a lot of people have said that to me and have talked about that. Like, I think if they were to go back and do, like, so there was a game that came out on GameCube Color called Shantae, and it's a rare game. So they did a re-release of it, and it was done by Limited Run, and it got the I think Way Forward was the people that published the game. Got with them, and then they actually republished it on the Game Boy Color. So if you have a Game Boy Color and you wanted to buy Shantae, you could buy it from Limited Run, and it came in the original box and everything, and they pushed it out, but you could still buy it through they had it, you can buy it digitally or physically to run on your Switch or whatever. But it allowed players that had a Game Boy Color and like, oh, I always wanted this game, but I'm not going to fish out $300 to buy this game. I can buy it from Limited Run for $60.
Right, yeah.
You know, and then have it. But I think going forward, I think that would be an excellent idea. And I think there is a niche market for it, but I think that market has actually grown so far in the last few years.
So I was going to say this too, is that I say that it would release on the original hardware. So like, okay, we're going to come out with this new game, and it's going to be a new game officially released by Nintendo on the Nintendo 64.
Right.
But also I bring it up because I was thinking about the other day, I play a lot of Stardew Valley, right? And the graphics on that are like reminiscent of 16-bit kind of graphics, and it's like a overhead. Obviously, it's not 16-bit. It's more in depth than that. But there's a lot of people that make indie games that are 8-bit or even older than that or whatever, and they gain a lot of popularity. And they're AAA titles sometimes that people want to play. So obviously, graphically, it's not a huge deal to go back in time and release something new that's on older, on an older look.
And I think now with the way they process games and program games, and they can run compression and stuff, and then it's kind of neat. So there was a couple of games on Super Nintendo that came out that ran on this SD11 chip, and it was only used for 2 games. And what it did was it compressed the memory of the game to where it would look good on the cartridge, but still wouldn't use up everything to where it would run well. Street Fighter Alpha 2 was one of the games, and then there was a Japanese game that came out on Super Nintendo called Star Ocean.
Okay.
And Star Ocean ran with the same chip, and and the game looks fantastic on 16-bit. But it used these chips to compress the graphics to where, like, this doesn't even look like a Super Nintendo game. But like, it allowed it to have more memory space to where they can do more things. And I'm like, that's something that's pretty cool. But they only released it for 2 different games,
right? Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, I didn't even know they had technology like that. It was toward the end of the Super Nintendo, but like, I was doing a whole look at the Star Ocean series and a lot of these JRPGs that came out that are not huge like Final Fantasy or anything, or Dragon Warrior or anything like that. Like Grandia was another one of them, and then Star Ocean's another one. They had some of the releases that were over in Japan never came to American shores. That was one of the games that didn't come over here until the PlayStation introduced the second part, which was on the PlayStation.
Okay.
And then, but just watching the YouTube guy and talk about that, I'm like, I was like, wow, that's really cool. I didn't know about that, And that's the same thing for the Nintendo. They had a couple games that ran with the moving, like they made it to where it looked like a 16-bit where they had the background move separately from the front.
Yeah.
But it was like two different palettes that was running on there.
Right.
To where the game and then I think one of them was the Ninja Gaiden 3 was one of the games that actually had that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it ran with and then there was a Batman game, Return to the Joker, which is another one they did.
Okay, yeah. I do remember that one.
But I'm like, they had gotten so far with technology, and I really see that, running a Nintendo 64 game, that they can probably compress it or whatever and still make it run great and still look good on the 64,
Yeah. I don't know. I was just throwing that idea out there. I think that would be cool.
I think there's a lot of talk about it, and I think that's a really good idea coming from that point of view, because I think a lot of that would be good selling points if they were to release.
Yeah. I mean, and also like it's kind of like they're obviously not done with those consoles because Nintendo's releasing them as digital, on the Switch if you're part of the service or whatever. So like, why not just officially make a new game?
Yeah, reprint, yeah.
Yeah, or I mean, even if it's like not the same game but reprinted, if it's just like this is an entirely new, like we have Ocarina of Time, we have Majora's Mask, and now there's this new Zelda coming out exclusively for N64. Sign up for the digital Switch and it'll be out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then we'll also sell a couple physical copies for those of you that still have an N64. I don't know. I think that would be. I'm ahead of the curve. Maybe in 50 years they'll do this and they'll be like, we were saving this for when the company was dipping, and now we're back up. I'm sure somebody's already had this idea.
Oh yeah.
But I like to think that I'm the first one. First one too.
Another thing that popped in my head, and this was just kind of this thinking, it would be kind of cool if like publishers that are like Nintendo and Sega, like if they made a retro console but modernized it to where you could hook it up, have it to where it's connected to a service that's supplied by the company, like an online service, like Sega of America and Nintendo of America, and have it to where you can have the original hardware, but have it to where you can download the old library from ROMs that's preserved.
Oh, yeah.
And then download it to your original hardware console and play it to where you can, you can hold so many games per hardware. I think that would work really well. You wouldn't have any cartridges, but and this is where I kind of have the pros for digital media, is because I think that preservation for these old games is very important to have a digital version or RIP version of this to where it sits somewhere to where, they can always pull it down from the shelf and not just get it lost with any physicality with someone like, hey, I lost my copy of Super Mario RPG, but have it to where you could still get it from a digital service to where it will run on hardware or like Nintendo Switches, emulators and stuff like that. I think that's really good. And I think more companies should preserve their old library and digital, put that up somewhere to where they can pull from whenever they need it. So
yeah, no, that's a good point.
Yeah,
but we're just a couple idea guys hanging out.
Yeah, I mean we're a little salty with some things, but we're a little bit like pro on some other things.
I think too, it's just like it was a hard fought battle with. I just realized how out of shape I was when we did the Columbia Con, which we didn't talk about that yet because the last episode we recorded was before then. It was great. I had a really fun time, and I got to do sound this year. Jeff had a kind of a section of a booth where he was selling games, so we were there. I unfortunately didn't get any content recorded because it was just so busy.
We were really busy.
We were insanely busy, and but you know what? It was a good time. Met Sammy and his family, and super super nice people. and I hope that they do it again next year. I hope that we can attend next year. But yeah, it was interesting, but I will say that I was exhausted. So like, and then it was just like, I feel like it's weird. Tears of the Kingdom is so close to my grasp.
I know. I'm looking
that
forward to
I'm
that.
like, I can't even like this week is going to be insanely slow. And just, I feel like every day is just going to drag and drag and drag. But then I'm going to run to Best Buy on Friday, pick up my physical copy with some sort of poster I think it comes with. I don't know. I didn't realize that until recently. And then it's just going to be 3 days. I took off work on Monday to just play Tears of the Kingdom. It's gonna.
Yeah, I'm actually thinking about. I think my copy's not gonna be back till I won't get mine till Monday because I actually reserved it on Amazon Prime.
Oh,
so
okay, yeah.
Easy takes it a little while. It comes out and then they ship it and then I'll probably get it on Monday. So.
Oh, I gotcha.
But I did buy the new Tears of the Kingdom. Switch console.
Yeah.
I still have it in my room. And
have you tested it out yet?
No, I haven't.
Not yet. Okay.
No, I'm waiting until the Zelda game hits that so I can have my Zelda game and my new console.
Okay. My good friend Jono, if you're listening, shout out to you, buddy. He also got it, but he opened his and played it right away, and he actually brought it to my house a couple days ago, and we were playing Dredge. That's where I played Dredge on it, but I was so afraid to use his controllers because he had and it's been a while that I've had my Switch. It's been over a year. And the controllers that I had been using, or still am using, I finally got the dreaded drift on the Joy-Con. Hadn't happened yet. I was like, maybe I'll run out. And I abused those controllers because when I first got the Switch, the first game I downloaded on it was Binding of Isaac. And if you know Binding of Isaac, you know that it is a controller killer. Yeah. I think I still have my original Xbox controller. Or my Xbox One controller, not original, but that I played Isaac on, and it is torn to shreds. And I have like tape holding it together. I mean, it's crazy. And that is that controller I only use for Binding of Isaac because it just demolished it. And so I used these Joy-Cons for Binding of Isaac for a good part of like 6 or 7 months of just abusing it, playing it.
Yeah.
And weirdly enough, I started getting the drift playing through Breath of the Wild again. So I don't know what the correlation is there. If it was finally just worn down enough, or if something I did.
My original Switch, I never really used much of the Joy-Cons, but I have my Pro controller.
Oh, yeah.
And my Pro controller is pretty worn out.
Is it?
Yeah, I really do need a new one. So I did see that the Nintendo did release a Tears of the Kingdom Pro controller. And it looks really neat, but it was out of stock when I looked at it. So,
which is crazy because actually, I've been seeing the Tears of the Kingdom Switch in stores. Like they did a really good job.
They did a really good job of releasing those and making sure people had a chance to buy them.
Yeah, especially with like scalpers and things like that.
Yeah.
Ugh, gosh, it's the worst. And I will say that if I do get one, it's just going to go in a box. It's not. I'm not taking it out. It's going to go in a box. It's going to stay sealed. And it's just gonna sit on a shelf until I'm retired.
Yeah,
and then I sell it or something.
Right.
But part of me is thinking like, should I get it? I almost thought about buying another physical Tears of the Kingdom game to just keep on a shelf unopened.
I actually thought about that too.
I don't know if I should. I part of me is like, right now that's so silly to spend $140 on a game that I'll probably end up buying the DLC for, so that'll be even more money. So let's just say $200 around there to have half of that just sit on a shelf unopened. But will it be worth it in 30 years? I don't know. Those are the weird collector questions we ask. Yeah. Will it be worth it?
And for some reason, Nintendo stuff's first-party Nintendo games seem to hold their value for a long time.
They really do. I think I would like to... I'm not much for collecting complete in box. You know this about me. I'm more of like, hey, if I can get it for super cheap and you don't have a case and you put it in a plastic bag, that's fine with me.
Yeah.
But maybe I'll do a like complete in box of every Zelda game. Maybe. I mean, maybe because I'm already halfway there. So
You get the
might as
64
well.
version of the Majora's Mask and throw
Oh
it
my
in there.
gosh, I know. Who knows where that was lying at?
I still would like the Twilight Princess for GameCube. I still would like a physical copy of the Twilight Princess, which I never did finish when I had my copy, and I really would like to go back through and play because I thought it was an excellent game.
It really is. Actually, I was just talking to somebody about this the other day that I love Twilight Princess, and it might be up there in like my top 3 favorite Zelda games. And I've only ever beat it or like played the game once, and I beat it like 100%. Like I got the guide, I got the game, I played it start to finish, 100% of it. Never picked it up again after that. And the reason why is because I got it on the Wii. And I hated the motion control part of it.
Yeah.
I did not realize. I mean, I guess I didn't think that on the GameCube it wouldn't have that.
Yeah.
So I actually own a copy for the GameCube, and I keep telling myself, like, just play it, just play it, just play it. But then I think I just have such bad memories with aiming the stupid Wiimote that I just don't want to do it.
And that was my favorite version, was the GameCube version. I couldn't do the motion one. I tried it, and I was just like, no, I like my GameCube version.
Yeah, it was lame.
Yeah,
the motion, like, as any way you slice it, no pun intended, it was just lame. But I probably will try the GameCube version at some point.
You'll find playability so different on the GameCube version. So that's
it was so cool. Like, I feel like it was everything I wanted for a sequel, but like a game following Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask.
Yeah.
And I love Majora's Mask, but like that's one of those two that like I could only play a couple times and then I was kind of done with it.
Yeah.
Ocarina of Time, I feel like just hit every note of like I can play this over and over and over again. And I feel like then Wind Waker came out and I liked it, but I was so disappointed because I thought they were going to come out with a more adult kind of grungy Zelda game, and it was more of a bright kind of
Looney Tune,
yeah. I mean, it was still great.
Oh yeah,
a great game.
Yeah,
minus the whole sailing everywhere thing, but it was still a fantastic game. It was just like not what I was expecting.
Another one that I really thoroughly enjoyed on the handheld was Link Between Worlds. I thought that was well done too.
I got a 3DS. This is really stupid but funny. I bought a 3DS just to play a Link Between Worlds and then sold my 3DS, which is so stupid. But I really enjoyed it, but I kind of was like, oh, do they make... Because I played through Minish Cap. Minish Cap is
another one of my favorite.
That's probably my favorite handheld Zelda game, which is funny. It's made by Capcom.
Published by...
published by Capcom.
They also did Ages and Oracles, too, which was the GameCube.
That's true. Okay, that makes
total
total sense now. Okay. But yeah, so Minish Cap is like that's top tier handheld for me.
Yeah.
But I was like, man, I feel like maybe if I played through Minish Cap now, I'd be like, oh, this is actually really simple and not that difficult. I feel like I struggled for a lot of it, or like some of the puzzles. I was like, man, I really don't know.
Yeah.
But when I played a Link Between Worlds on the 3DS, I was like, every part of it, I was like, okay, was this made for babies?
Yeah, exactly.
It's really good, but it was just so simple.
It was simple, yeah.
But I really did enjoy it. I just didn't think I was going to get it done in the 2 afternoons that I played it. And then I was at the end of the game, and I was like, oh, okay. I was like, I guess that's it.
I think one of the most challenging Zelda games would have to be the Zelda 2 Link's.
That game is impossible. I don't care.
Having to go around and find all the palaces and then find all the like some of the boss fights. It took you some time to learn the pattern of finding the bosses.
Like just dying constantly.
Yeah.
That is the one. Other than Spirit Tracks, I think. That is the one Zelda game that I have not completed.
Oh, really?
So I have played and beaten every single Zelda game minus the CDI games. Have never even played Spirit Tracks. But I enjoyed Phantom Hourglass, so I probably would like Spirit Tracks. But
so there was a YouTube guy I saw the other day said they just re-released the Zelda's Adventure for CDI. You can play it free online now.
Are you serious?
I am not kidding you, dude.
I don't know if I would count those in my pool.
So you can actually play that.
That's crazy.
So I think they were having some error. So I've got who actually kind of converted over. So one of the guys was testing. I think he had one part where it froze. it was a boss fight, and he hit this javelin thing way too many times, and the game froze. But you're supposed to use some sort of magical thing, and so he went back and threw after he figured out what it was, and it didn't freeze again. So I didn't know CDI actually had a Zelda game until they were talking about it. I'm like, oh, I forgot all about this,
Oh my gosh, yeah, the notoriously horrible 3.
Yeah.
Oh, here's another thing. We're talking about Zelda, and I'm in a much better mood. So let's just keep going this way. I have a discrepancy to everyone out there that's listening that complains about this very specific thing. And my discrepancy is that if you watch the Legend of Zelda TV show, the 13 episodes that came out in the late 80s, whatever, they talk about this and they explain, like they don't explain, but they show why this can happen. Everybody complains about, I was recently watching a playthrough of Twilight Princess, and he had the giant ball and chain. Do you remember that? Like the giant ball and chain, you have to swing around to break the ice, whatever.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, so he struggles to walk when it's in his hands, but when it's in his pocket, it's no problem at all.
Right.
Whatever. So, and everybody talks about that. They're like, how does Link carry around all this stuff? Like he's got a sword and shield on his back, but like, how does he hold his bow and his quiver and whatever? Yeah. So in the TV show, it shows a very like specific part that I'm like, oh dude, there it is right there, where Link gets some equipment that was dropped by moblins. Like he defeats these moblins and they drop they drop like a sword and they drop a spear and something else. And so he picks them up and he basically uses magic and they shrink like super, super small, and he puts it in his pouch. So basically, he shrinks the item.
See, that makes a lot of sense.
Into like a super small item. So when I think about like the bomb bag and everything that he has, the bombs are probably super small in there. And as soon as he pulls it out, it goes to like regular
probably
size.
Probably the size of boogers.
Exactly, dude. Yeah. So it's like, I hear everybody complain. They're like, oh, how does he carry all this equipment? First of all, in a fantasy video game, okay. So it's like, how does he carry all this equipment? But if you watch the Zelda TV show, they clearly show that all of the items just shrink because of magic and fit into pockets or pouches.
Interesting.
And when you grab it,
the
magic
comes to full size.
It goes to full size.
That's interesting.
Just so you know, a little bit of knowledge, but it is explained in the lore.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. I think the Zelda series, actually the whole lore has been explained through. I think there was a timeline on one of the Wikipedia pages that actually goes through the whole timeline of all that, and it tells you, So like with the new Tears of the Kingdom, it kind of follows suit with. If you read the wiki, it kind of goes along with the Calamity, the Calamity game that came out. So it kind of happens. Supposedly, like Tears of the Kingdom actually happens right before the Wind Waker or the previous one that just came out or something like that, I didn't know that. Calamity or whatever? I didn't know that. I'm like, oh, well, this kind of feels like you'd be almost playing like a prequel almost. Dude,
that was I didn't know that they announced that. That was my guess.
That was someone that actually wrote an article about that. And I went to Wikipedia and I'm like,
dude, I had that when Tears of the Kingdom was like first announced. I was like, how much you want to bet that like with Ocarina of Time, because they made 3 separate timelines, when the hero dies, when the hero goes back to child Link, and just after, like he doesn't die, but he just lives out his adult life. But I bet in technically canonically canon, whatever canon would be, with Breath of the Wild and then Age of Calamity, the Hyrule Warriors. In Hyrule Warriors, they kind of did the same thing, where they go back in time, and all of the like Urbosa and like all of the sages are alive.
It changed the timeline.
They changed the timeline. So, I mean, to me, that's canon. I feel like Hyrule Warriors is canon. At least that game was. I don't think the first one was, but I feel like Age of Calamity is.
Age of Calamity is, yep.
And so I was guessing, I was like, what if Tears of the Kingdom is like not even Breath of the Wild, but it's
it falls in the time of before Breath of the Wild, and this the Tears of the Kingdom actually falls right after Calamity with all that.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm like, well, that makes sense,
Yeah.
I'm like almost playing like we're playing a prequel for Breath of the Wild, but I'm like, it's a brand new game. So
I also saw something interesting the other day because I had this thought on my own that I wondered if in the years, if they would ever do a Legend of Zelda game that was set in modern like modern or futuristic times.
That would be kind of cool.
Which would be cool, but like I feel like it would be too
out of place.
I feel like people would be too upset, But apparently, when they made the first Legend of Zelda for the NES, like when they were coming up with the idea, Miyamoto said that the original idea was that it would take place half in the future and half like in the past. So like in the future, meaning like modern times. And then you would go back to like olden times to like play back and forth. So I was like, that could possibly happen someday.
That'd be kind of cool. They came out with a Zelda game that had partial cyberpunk and partial past.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that'd be wild.
That would be kind of cool. I wonder what Link would look like cyberpunkish. Like would he be still carrying around?
I'm sure somebody has some sort. Yeah, would it be a sword and shield, or would he have like a gun?
Yeah, or something. Something. Something that's kind of like cyberpunkish. And then be able to go back in time to with sword and shield. I mean, I think that whole I think they can do so many things with that series.
Yeah, and I wonder too. I wonder if this will be the last game that we get in the Age of Calamity Breath of the Wild world.
Yeah,
like if they'll create a whole new world,
like they move it to a different
a timeline
version, another version of Link that's different.
Yeah, I think it probably will. If I had to guess, I doubt they'll do a third one in this world.
Yeah,
but I wonder how much the next game will look like. This one. But anyway, I'm excited for Tears. I'm already thinking about the next game. I don't know why I'm doing that. I should just enjoy Tears of the Kingdom while it's here.
So one more thing I want to kind of bring up that I kind of saw, and this goes along with the companies bringing back the old school beat 'em up games. And we saw the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Shredder's Revenge, and then we saw the new Streets of Rage 4.
Yes, okay,
So they're coming out with a Toxic Avengers. You remember Toxic Avengers?
Oh my gosh, yes.
There's a new beat 'em up coming with Toxic Avengers. It looks really well. And the newest one I just saw, which I'm a huge Double Dragon fan, Double Dragon Gaiden, which is going to be made by Modus, and it looks along the same lines as Ninja Turtle: Shredder's Revenge. So you have multiple playable characters. You got Billy and Jimmy Lee, Marin, and then there's another guy named Uncle Ruck. He looks like he's got to do with his shield. But I was
hoping you were going to say Uncle Rico from like Napoleon Dynamite. But anyway, go ahead.
But I saw the trailer for it, and it looks super fun. It looks like you can play like up to 4 people at the same time with it.
Oh, nice.
So I think the release date for that was going to be around September, and I went on Amazon, and they already have the physical copy up for reserve. I'm gonna wait till I get paid, and I'll put a reserve on it,
right? Yeah,
so I can get it because I like.
If I could tell you the number of times I've said that in my life,
yeah, I know.
I'm gonna wait till I get paid.
Just pull out my credit card here. It ain't gonna hurt me too, but I can get it paid off pretty quick.
Right? Yeah.
But I'm like, I love beat 'em ups. Me and my brothers have played so many of the old ones growing up. We would sit down and would, it was just a lot of fun going through, and we played on the hardest difficulty, so we'd have more enemies to beat up. And
I'm notoriously, like, this is a known thing with many people that I'm notoriously bad at beat 'em up games. I'm really, really bad. I prefer the easiest settings, and I prefer to be in parties that are much better than I am. I waste all the quarters when we go to the arcade. But I did play. There was one that I was actually pretty good at, and it was Scott Pilgrim versus the World beat 'em up that came out years ago. And I guess they did a re-release on Switch, which I didn't even know. And when Jono brought over his Switch, I was like, dude, you have that? Let's play it. Wild story about that, just real quick, is that I got the game. It was a digital only download when it first came out, and it came out like right along with the movie. Was obsessed with the movie. I got the game. All my friends hated it. They're like, I don't like this game. It's not very good.
For PS3 too.
Yeah, and they're like, it's not very good. Whatever. And so I was like, God, you guys are lame. I think it's great. It's just everything I wanted in a beat 'em up for Scott Pilgrim. And it was on my Xbox. Then I ended up giving that Xbox to a friend that was kind of in a tough spot, and they needed like a console, right? And or maybe they weren't in a tough spot, but basically it was something like, I don't have one anymore, and I really wish I did. And so I was like, oh, I'll just give it to you.
Yeah.
So I gave it to him, and then I started to see all these people that were selling their Xbox hard drives because it had the game on it, because they came out and said you can't download it
You
anymore.
can't download it anymore.
You can't get it anywhere. The only way, if you delete it, you can't re-download it. Like the only way you can have it is if it's downloaded on your console.
Yep.
And they were selling their hard drives for like thousands of I mean, it was insane. I'm not saying people were buying them for thousands. I'm just saying that that's what their price point was.
Yeah.
And they're like, this will be a one-time only thing. That'll never happen again. They'll never re-release the game. They've already come out and said that it's just done with, whatever. And I was so bummed. I was like, oh no, I just gave away my Xbox.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to ask for it back. So I just let it be, you know. But then cut to years later, before I found out it re-released on Switch, I got a PS3 from somebody, and it's downloaded on there. So I was able to play it again. Yeah,
I have it on my PS3 still too, because
Yeah.
it's one of those games where it was just really fun. I'm glad they re-released it because it was such a great beat 'em
It
up.
was. And the best part is, too, is that scalpers no longer have any say. You know what I mean? It's like prices are back down. Everything's cool because they re-released the game. But that's the only beat 'em up I was ever somewhat decent at. But
Yeah, there's quite a few of them. There's one based off a comic book called Cadillacs and Dinosaurs that Capcom did, but it was like an arcade game. And I think they released it for Sega Genesis, or it was a home version. It was almost on par with the arcade, but it was really good. That was another one that was really good. Of course, the Final Fight series. There's another one called another beat 'em up called Captain Commando, which is done by Capcom. Came out with a bunch of beat 'em ups.
Capcom is probably one of my favorite.
They're speaking of Capcom, they're I don't know if you saw the footage or anything for the Street Fighter 6.
Yes.
Have you seen? Did you see that you can customize your own character? There was people.
Finally, how long is that going to take? Yeah.
So I was watching. There's a guy named Maximilian. He's a huge Street Fighter fan. He was on it. He made the most trolliest looking, dorky character I've ever seen. He's got this big long neck, and he's going around giving people like shoryukens in the middle of the street, and they're like, "Oh, you want to fight me?" Coming in this big lanky dude. I'm like, dude, this is gonna be great.
Dude, honestly, I weirdly had that thought when they came out with one of the Dragon Ball Z games. I think it was Xenoverse or Xenoverse 2 or something.
Where you can make your own custom
Where you can make your own custom character that's doing, like, I mean, I always chose the Saiyan race, but you could do Boo, you could do...
Yeah.
I think you could even do human.
You can do Namekians, too.
Namekian, yeah, it was wild.
Yeah.
Good, man, good games. Xenoverse 1 and 2. Not great execution. I had fun with them while I had them. I'm a big Dragon Ball Z buff. I love the Budokai games. I even like Budokai 2, who everybody hated, but I thought it was really fun. But
so they're actually making a new Budokai Tenkaichi.
I saw that. I'm so
and it
pumped.
looks good.
I'm so pumped. The last Dragon Ball Z game that I purchased was Kakarot, DBZ Kakarot.
That's the one I've been playing.
I really enjoy it. But I kind of felt like, halfway through I was like, okay, I like that they do the open world thing, but I think it needs to kind of be limited open world. I don't know. I feel like there were a few things that could have been.
It seems a little bit out there with the run around doing your cooking and grabbing your little spears and stuff like that.
I will say though that the worst offense of a Dragon Ball Z series is the Dragon Ball Z Tenkaichi Budokai games, because I'm pretty sure that all three of them, you each, in order to create a huge character roster, each transformation was their own character. So you could play as Goku but not transform into Super Saiyan. You had to play as Super Saiyan Goku, or Super Saiyan 2 Goku, or Super Saiyan 3 Goku, or 4,
it wasn't
whatever.
something where you could progress with them.
Progress with them. And who wants that? Yeah. Who wants that? Why would you ever choose regular Goku when Super Saiyan 3 is obviously stronger and better? Why would you ever do that?
And I think they changed a couple. They changed a few movesets and stuff. Like the regular Goku had the Kaioken stuff, and then that kind of just disappeared when you either pick Super Saiyan Goku.
Oh my gosh! So I remember there was a time when I had to look up a Dragon Ball Z game and see, can you do in-game transformations? And if it said no, I didn't even bother. Like, why would you do this? This is so stupid. But
I like that about Kakarot. Like, it allowed you to do the when the first transformation where you could do the Kaioken when you're fighting Vegeta, or it would give you a time limit on how long you could stay in your form. It would drain your Kai or your health bar or whatever. So you had like really take care of business as fast as you can before you could revert back.
Right. Yeah, and that's the whole fun part of it. But when you can just be the character for as long as you want.
Yeah.
And you can just pick the strongest one.
Why would I okay, next round I'm going to be Super Goku instead of like regular Goku. Let me go and pick Super Saiyan Goku. And like instead of like just staying with the same character and be like, I'm going to transform now.
Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, that was my little DBZ rant. Might as well I ranted on every other game we talked about.
Right,
today.
I know. It seemed like we pretty much tore into.
Hey, you know what though? Sometimes these game companies need a little bit. Sometimes even the nicest guys.
Like they're making
which I'm gonna
they're making the games for us to buy their stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that they're going to charge us $70. We want $70 worth of our money spent on a game that's going to be running like it should and be all there. You know?
And something I'm going to want to keep my attention on. Half of that could also be my problem of just like losing attention. But I don't know. We'll see. There's still a lot of year left. A lot of releases coming out.
We got quite a bit coming down the pipeline.
And I think you can kind of tell right away which games are going to be good and which games are not going to be great.
Yeah.
But hey, as long as they release out on what's that, Game Pass, then I'm fine.
At least gives us a chance to try it out instead of something we want to actually spend money on,
Yeah, but anyway, that's what I've been playing. I think that's what we've been playing.
Yeah.
I think we're at a pretty good spot here.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we're right on the money.
All right, well,
right
good deal.
on the money.
Good deal.
I think this would be a good
so
spot.
I think our rants are over. I think we're excited. We're both excited for the new Zelda game, and just want to kind of get a shout out to my friends Matt and Nick Ginther on their podcast. They're doing quite well. We got the chance to meet with them and got a picture taken with them at the last con.
Yeah, I need to get that picture too. I need to ask them for
that.
I
know. We need to.
Yeah.
We need to definitely check out their podcast.
Open by Accident. They release every Thursday, or they have so far. And they also just had an Instagram account opened up, Open by Accident on Instagram. So
cool.
Be sure to check that out. Super cool guys. And I have a feeling that we'll be doing a lot more with them in the future. So
they're right. They actually live right in the same area that we do. So it definitely
they do not live 3 hours away.
No, they're not 3 hours
2
away.
hours away. Yeah.
So definitely we'll be doing some collaboration with them, and I'm looking forward to that. And of course, they're just as much as gamers as we are. So.
Yeah, exactly. I'd love to hear some of their opinions on this stuff too. So definitely want to pull them in for stuff. But this has been good. I feel like this has been therapeutic.
I think so too. I think with us having the last couple of weeks being busy, I think getting us all out of there.
Yeah, it's just been therapy, getting it out in the open, and it's always good. And hey, even sometimes you got dips. Sometimes there's just dips in quality where you're like, man, I haven't been satisfied gaming.
I know. I'm sitting there going, spinning my wheels on this. So I'm like, well, why am I disappointed?
Yeah, and what's funny about just too is that I was telling everybody was like, oh, you're so excited for Tears of the Kingdom, you're not gonna play anything else. I was like, I have so many games that I'm playing that it's kind of like, oh, my time's gonna be like bought up, and am I gonna even have time to play Zelda because I'll be playing all these other games? I'll definitely have time to play Zelda.
Yeah, when you got something that's like you're looking forward to for the whole year, and you're like, I'm going to spend time with that. You're just going to put everything else on the shelf while you're playing one other game.
So, but anyway, this has been really fun. It's been good to chat with
bud.
you again.
Thank you for chit-chatting and getting us all out there and everything.
Obviously.
Yeah.
And let's see. We've got... I finally got things set up for better streaming, so Jeff and I will be doing some more streaming, and we still have a couple movies that we need to see.
We just haven't had time, but we plan to get back on track with everything here soon.
So you guys will be hearing a lot about that soon too.
Right.
But anyway, thanks for being here. Thanks for hanging out with
no problem, bud.
With us and retrolecting. See, I said the title. I said the title. He did it.
You did it.
The Truman Show. He said it.
Yeah.
But with us, and remember to collect, play, and repeat. See you guys
later.